Hey, how's it going, everybody? Expat Stacker coming to you from South Korea. It's almost midnight here, and it's the 1 year anniversary of the January 6th uh, insurrection that took place in 2021. And I just watched President Biden's speech about that. So I just wanted to share some thoughts about it. Um, First of all, with me, something you got to understand is, well, a couple things. First of all, I've been a political person my whole life. A lot of it has to do with just things that I went through as a younger person. Um, but also having family members serve in the military and stuff. Always learned that that was an important part of life. But I'm not the type of person who follows along party lines, and I'm not the type of person who follows along with individual politicians. Um, I believe in policies, like individual policies, and principles. So, I give Trump credit for things that he did on, for example, diplomacy with North Korea. Obviously, that was very important to me because I live in South Korea, but I also just thought it was a good thing. Even if I didn't live here, I think diplomacy is a good thing. And there's disagreements about that in the Republican Party and in the Democratic Party. If you go back and watch some of the Democratic debates uh, when they were having the primaries for president before, there was a candidate named Tulsi Gabbard, and she talked about having diplomacy with Syria because they tried to attack her for the fact that she um, met with Assad and talked with Assad and stuff. And, you know, um, she said basically something along the lines of we need diplomacy with not just our allies but with our adversaries, and I think that's very true. It's pretty easy to talk with your friends, not so easy to talk with your adversaries, but perhaps more important, necessary, to prevent bad things from happening. Another big difference, I think. So that's one thing about me that you have to understand. I've been following politics for a really long time, and I don't subscribe to, towing the party line or following along with just one or two individual politicians. Of course, there are politicians who I might support a little bit more than others because they happen to align with my policy beliefs and my philosophies. But there's no one that I support, unquestionably. So that's one thing. I don't see that happening a lot when I listen to or read or hear about discussions from Americans when it comes to politics. People are choosing only individual politicians, and they don't want to give credit where it's due, and they just toe a party line. And to me, I don't understand that because it's a America is a nation of like, over 300 million people. So how can one person or one party get it right every single time? I mean, yeah, I just don't get that. So I don't want to paint myself into a corner of just supporting one person or one party. So I have my beliefs. My beliefs change over time, and I'll give credit where it's due, and I'll fight like hell for stuff that I disagree with. Now, um, another thing I want to say is that while I give Trump credit for certain things that he did, Uh, I'm not really a fan of his other policies or his style of governing. Um, but with that being said, what I really want to get to at the heart of this and why I'm making this video is because when I listened to Biden's speech just now, he's basically saying that, yeah, it's like the former president's fault and all the people who attacked the Capitol, they're all traitors and blah, blah, blah. Um, and, I do think that those people were wrong for attacking the Capitol. I don't believe that the election was stolen in the way that, you know, the people who support the so-called big lie. I don't think that the election was stolen. Now, I also don't think that all these elections are just fair and equal. I mean, are super delegates democratic? Is that a democratic way? And by the way, you might hear some people. I hear this sometimes. People say, "Oh, it's a republic. It's not a democracy." Okay, but a republic is just a form of democracy. It's a democratic organization of a nation. So they're just playing semantic word games. We know what we mean when we use those broad terms, right? But are super delegates a democratic thing? One super delegate, and this is something that only the Democratic Party does, is worth like millions of individual votes. That's not very democratic, is it? And on the Republican side, they don't have super delegates, but what they do is gerrymandering. So they redraw the districts so that it favors them. The election outcomes favor them. And the other element to this two-party system that the United States has is the media. And they try to make everything, seem like it's red or blue. There's red states and blue states. It's like that ain't how it is. They also try to make states or countries or governments, or they try to talk about them like they're people sometimes too. So they do all these apples to oranges comparisons, and it just doesn't work. So the way that they talk about everything is all messed up. They never get to the heart of any real issues. And I'm going to use Biden's speech and some of the coverage that I saw after that as an example. So Biden basically said, I'm for good things, I'm against bad things. We're for democracy, we're against autocracy. We need to come together, not divide each other. He didn't really say anything. It's full of platitudes. No policy discussed in there at all. Maybe the one thing you could say is that he talked about voting rights. So, but other than that, zero policy, you know? Yeah, we're all for good things and against bad things, but that's subjective. So you got to talk about policy. You know what I mean? And basically, Biden's message was, we're a democracy and we're not gonna embrace this lie, and the attack on the Capitol was horrible, blah blah blah. Look, I definitely agree that the attack on the Capitol or the protest or the riot or whatever you want to call it was a bad thing. I condemn all those people. But Martin Luther King Jr. said that rioting is the language of the unheard. Think about it. Why would all of those people go and attack the Capitol like that? Are some of them stupid people who just love Donald Trump and like they got caught up and they just thought that that's what he wanted, or they believe a conspiracy that the election was stolen? Probably. I mean, there's probably a lot of different motivations. But how take a step back. How do people even get to that point? If people are happy about the way things are going, they're not going to believe crazy, ridiculous conspiracy theories. Some of them might, but not that many people to get to that level or that point. And by the way, another thing Biden mentioned is that more people voted in the past election than ever before. And Biden received the most votes of any president. But you know who was second? Trump. So there are a lot of people who do support Donald Trump, and they're not all racist. They're not all crazies. They're not all buying into the conspiracy theories. And some of them do, but how do people get to that point? Let me tell you, because people are suffering in the United States, and it's been people don't want to talk about that, but it's been going on long before COVID. You know, one thing that Biden kept saying in this speech is that America's a democracy. We're all equal, and it's a representative democracy. It's not all about like the powerful ruling over everybody else. Well, look, tell that to Joe Manchin, because he's blocking your Build Back Better plan, which a majority of Republicans even support. Republican voters, I'm saying. Uh, and so, like, if you go issue by issue, I mean, child tax credits, who's against that? I mean, I thought that Republicans were for, like, cutting taxes and lowering the tax burden on people. So why would they be against giving tax credits to people who have kids? You know? I mean, that makes no sense. That's in Build Back Better. You know? Lower we're having all this inflation right now, and one of the things that was in Build Back Better was lowering the cost of prescription drug prices. We're also in a pandemic. So that helps on the inflation front and on the public health front. But no, Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema, they're against that. And oh, if we raise the minimum wage, inflation's going to happen. Well, it's already happening and people can't afford it, And look, what I'm saying is this has all been going on way before Biden, before Trump, before Obama, before Bush. This really all started with Reaganomics, around the time that, around the time of Nixon and Reagan, neoliberalism and neoconservatism and permanent and normal trade relations with China. They start shipping our manufacturing jobs overseas. That's why Trump got elected, because he went into all those states that Hillary Clinton ignored and said, I'm going to bring the jobs back. Now, he really didn't, If you really look into that, he brought a few back, but those didn't even last, And the tax cuts that Trump did, the ones for the rich were permanent. The ones for you and me, temporary. They expire after he gets, after 4 years or whatever. So my point is, the American people, the American worker, have been getting shafted by their elected representatives, because their elected representatives are not representing them. They're representing corporate interests, legalized bribery in the United States. 2 Supreme Court cases pretty much decided it all. Buckley v. Vallejo and Citizens United. And those 2 Supreme Court cases decided that corporations are people, and hey, Plumber Stacker, what's up, man? And that money equals speech. Look, corporations are not people. People are people, and people work at corporations, and those people can go out and do their free speech. So why does a corporate entity need to have its own freedom of speech? It doesn't. It was a way for business interests to control the government. And money is not speech. Money is money. If money is speech, then why can't I buy anything I want, right? Corporations of USA, we were sold out by Congress, 1871. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And Joe Biden wants to blame Trump and blame Trump's supporters and stuff. And look, I'm not giving a pass to what happened on January 6th. I'm not supporting Trump or whatever. What I'm saying is Biden's trying to make it like a us versus them thing, and it's not that. People are frustrated. That's how people got to the point where they're like, yeah, Trump says crazy stuff. I voted for Obama twice. Not me personally, but I'm saying there are people who voted for Obama twice because Obama was talking about hope and change, and I'm going to get us out of Iraq. And then what ended up happening? No hope, no change, financial crisis. We got into like drone wars and attacking Syria and all this other craziness. madness, and Occupy Wall Street got crushed, and like, he made the Bush tax cuts for the rich permanent. You know what I'm saying? So, and Reagan in that era, they tried to make it like a business versus the government thing. They tried to say the government is evil and business is good, and it's like, no, you guys are working together, and you're making us buy into one narrative or another, and then go at each other, so that the working man and the working woman we're so busy fighting amongst ourselves, we don't see that you're robbing us blind, you know? Uh, and Joe Biden doesn't get that, and the Democrats don't get that, you know? Uh, he's talking about how it's not a nation of like, well, I hold you down, and somehow that helps me to lift myself up. It's like, uh yes. Actually, that is exactly what's going on, because while you and I are out here, worried about how we're going to pay our next bill or feed our kids and all this kind of stuff. I mean, people were freezing to death in Texas, like a year ago or whatever. You got people in Kentucky and all these states where those tornadoes just hit, and their bosses are telling them, if you leave, you're fired. Those people don't want to lose their job. And meanwhile, Nancy Pelosi is saying that the insider information that she has, that she uses to make, her stock purchases and stuff, is the free market. How does Joe Biden not see that this is why people are upset? This is what causes people to believe in the big lie. This is what causes people to support somebody like Donald Trump, because it's like, hey, at least Trump is not putting on a mask like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Obama and Bush and all of them. Again, it's not a party issue or anything like that. I have my policy beliefs, and I have my personal philosophies, and that's what I subscribe to. I don't buy into one party or one individual politician over the other. I can't respect somebody like Ted Cruz, who got mopped by Trump and then was bootlicking for him and stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, LJ, you say Democrat, Republican are same unit party. It's true. It's absolutely true, And now, they want to act like, that Billy Joel song, like, we didn't start the fire. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what they are realizing right now, because they totally are acting like, oh, Trump, he's this monster that just came out of nowhere. And it's like, no, dude, he's the gasoline that got poured on the fire that you guys started. We didn't start the fire. You started the fire. You've been crapping on the American people for so long. So that's what, there was interesting parts of Biden's speech where he talked about freedom, democracy, and power, right? And how that power gets distributed. And he made it sound like it's a choice between democracy and autocracy. We don't, what we have in the United States is something that Biden didn't mention in his speech. And that's why I decided to make this video, which is plutocracy, kleptocracy. We have corporate interests and the government working hand in hand. There's a revolving door. You go into government, you go to work you get some sweet deal at some corporation, you become a lobbyist or whatever. That's why somebody like Kirsten Sinema doesn't care at all about re-election. She's going to get some sweet deal as a lobbyist, or she's going to get some sweet deal. I mean, she campaigned on lowering prescription drug prices, and then she said, I can't vote for Build Back Better because it would lower prescription drug prices. I mean, there has to be consequences for that. She's not dumb. She knows that. It's because she's about to go get a sweet lobby, gig. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Cruz is a sellout. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people would probably consider me a leftist because of some of my personal policy beliefs. But check this out, right? Here's something I kind of hold against Ted Cruz. He went on like a vacation to Mexico during a pandemic when people were literally freezing to death in his state. He doesn't care about regular people. And guess what? AOC did the same thing. Just on New Year's, she went down to Florida with her husband or her boyfriend or whatever. And when people started calling her out, she was like, "Oh, you're just mad because you can't date me." It's like, no, because you try to come out there like you're some member of the proletariat, workers. And, you know what I'm saying? You're now going and checking in first class flight to Florida, while everybody else is out here. We can't, send our kids to school. We got to wear masks. We got to have vaccine QR codes, passports. And there's a new rule every single day and stuff like that, And look, this is one thing, too, that I think that I understand that some of the people who were there on January 6th, some of them are crazy. Some of them want like a racial war. Some of them, whatever. Like I said, there's a lot of people there who had their, whatever, different motivations for being there. But like I said, how do people get to that point? It's because they're suffering. There's a totally like a two-tier system in the United States. And Joe Biden didn't talk about that at all. He just tried to make it sound like it's the Trump people versus everybody else. No. If you really believe in the stuff you were saying, Joe Biden, go talk to Joe Manchin. You know what I'm saying? Go talk to him and get your agenda passed, because it's all about economics. It's all about economics. Slavery was about economics. I see something here. The Uniparty is the Nazi party. Germany lost World War II, but the Nazis moved to America. Prescott Bush financed Hitler. That's all true. That is 100% true. And you know what else? Something I wanted to say about Nazi Germany is it's like a topic of countless books, countless college classes, and topics of discussions. How did the Nazis, I saw a comedian, Bill Burr, talking about, didn't anyone realize, Hitler's kind of crazy? His hair's all flopping around, can't get any girls, got a weird mustache, this guy's kind of crazy, rah, 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 rah. You know what I mean? But how did, the Germans, believe this guy? If you really look into the history before World War II, a lot of it had to do with the Weimar Republic, which something is a lot of stackers are familiar with, because we like to talk about inflation and use Weimar Germany as an example of people pushing wheelbarrows full of cash. Look, man, when people can't feed their families, when it's hard times, people are working as hard as they can and they're getting nowhere, going backwards, things are just getting harder and harder. They're not going to be happy, and they're going to start looking around for somebody to blame. And I think that's what's happening in the United States. I mean, it's very, very ridiculous. Very recently, Nancy Pelosi came out and said that it's free market for her to be doing stock trades and stuff like that, even though she has insider information as a member of the government. I mean, she sits on committees, her and Republicans too. There's some dude from North Carolina. I can't remember if he's a House member or a senator or whatever, but he found out about the coronavirus and sold millions of dollars worth of stocks, and then they told us all about it. So what they did, the Federal Reserve board governors, right? We stackers don't like central banks, but look, even they have now barred themselves from trading while they sit on as governors of the central bank. Now, is that gonna? I mean, if I'm sitting on a central bank board of governors and I can't trade, well, I'll just tell my wife about it. Maybe, So I'm not saying they're doing the right thing, but even they understand the optics of the situation where they're gonna say okay. Look, while we're sitting governors, board members of central banks, we're not going to engage in securities tradings, But Nancy Pelosi thinks that it's the free market when she does it. That's what she said. I mean, even the central bankers get it. Like, this doesn't look good. It's an obvious conflict of interest. We can't continue to do this and still have the people trust us. They already don't trust us. Congress has an even lower approval rating than central banks do. Congress's approval rating is like 16%. You know? I mean, how can she say that? And again, it's not a it's I'm just talking about her because she's a well-known politician and prominent person, but she's not the only one. Like, they do it on both sides. The Republicans and the Democrats, they both do it, you know. So my point is in making this video is to say that, it really does hurt me to watch all this happening from far away. I mean, I'm an American, and although I live in another country, um, it's almost made me more patriotic in some ways, and it really hurts me to watch this from far away. And I think that the people in Washington, D.C. have been there for so long and they're trapped in their own little bubble. And the media is a part of that bubble. The lobbyists are a part of that bubble. The corporate interests are a part of that bubble. And the politicians are a part of that bubble. And they're all just part of their own little club. And they don't get it. Like, it's falling apart. That's how bad people have been suffering, you know? There are so many studies that talk about how the productivity of the American worker has gone up and up and up and up since the 1970s and 80s, but their compensation has been going down and down and down and down relative to inflation, also in real terms in some cases. And the compensation for the C-suite, for the managerial class, has been just through the roof, I mean, Elon Musk complained on Twitter about how he paid 11 million or 11 billion dollars in taxes. He didn't pay that, first of all, because there's very well, I believe it was ProPublica, demonstrated how he paid an effective tax rate of basically zero. Him and Jeff Bezos and all of them. But also, let's just say, for argument's sake, that Elon Musk did pay that level of taxes. He has $135 billion. So, relative to his net worth, that is an extremely low tax burden compared to what we have to pay as working people. A percentage of our total income for the year, right? We're paying way more than that. And what I just don't understand is this obsession to just get more money and more power for these people who are at the top. I mean, we have rampant homelessness and all kinds of problems in the United States. Meanwhile, the billionaires are going to the moon and talking about colonizing Mars and stuff. And it's I think, just stop paying the lobbyists in Washington, D.C. and your army of lawyers to figure out how you can not pay your taxes, and just pay your taxes so we can have roads that aren't falling apart. So we can drink water that isn't poisonous, I don't understand how the conversation has gotten so skewed. I mean, I do understand actually, but that's kind of it would take another 30-40 minutes to get into that. But it's like a consolidation of the media and also changing laws, like some of the Supreme Court things I mentioned. The Supreme Court decisions that allow corporations to basically legally bribe our politicians. So don't worry, expat, they are going down one way or another. The stock market will crash, Bitcoin XRP will crash, and Congress, mainstream media, big pharma will be arrested too. They're all in cahoots with CB, central banks. Yeah, I mean, I think that what my point is here is that Biden made this speech, and I just think he totally missed the mark, Yes, people who stormed the Capitol or whatever. Look, man, some of them are totally wrong and did it with the worst intent, but some of them are just have been suffering for so long, they just got misguided. And I'm not excusing what they did, but you know, like you do have to ask if you really care about the police officers who died on that day, then you really do have to ask, how did those people end up there? They're not all just crazies or racists or whatever. Like that's just lazy. If you just say that about everybody who's your opponent or everybody who does something bad, then you're just being lazy and you don't really care about what happened. You have to ask. And like I said, it always comes back to economics. People have been suffering. Joe Biden talked a lot about power and the distribution of power in his speech, and he doesn't understand. None of them understand. Like you said, they're all in cahoots. They don't get it, you know. And on the one hand, they do get it because I was watching uh the CNN International here. I don't usually watch it, but I want to hear what Biden had to say. And then I watched a little bit of their coverage afterwards, and like they're totally going down the wrong path, probably intentionally, but like I just wanted to, throw my voice out into the void and say that like they don't get it. Like they're totally focused on the wrong things. If you really do care about American democracy, the distribution of power, ensuring that this doesn't happen again, and the people who were killed on the day and everything like that, and even even the protesters who lost their lives, protesters, rioters, insurrectionists, whatever you want to call them. I'm not going to get into the semantics game. Everybody who lost their life on that day, they're all Americans. So if you really care about that, you got to ask, why were they there? Like I said, you know, yeah, they reached a point where, a breaking point, but how did they get to that point? It's not like people just wake up one day and like, I'm going to go to the Capitol, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, they really have to kind of think about it in a more meaningful, honest way, and recognize that their little club, right? Like you said, LJ, like they're all in cahoots. They got to understand that like all us commoners, we're not really having it no more, you know? So and people, whether they want to demonize them or not, it doesn't matter. This is the result of their policies, plain and simple. So you can't keep doing the same thing and then expect this not to happen again, right? That's basically how I see it, but they're not getting it. They're really not getting it. Like they think they can keep playing these games. And I came on here like a couple, maybe 2 weeks ago or something. It was like ranting against Joe Manchin. But here's the thing: there's a strategy called like the what they call it, like the revolving demon strategy or something like that, where they put some politician's face like, it's your turn to be the bad guy. All right, next time it's your turn to be the bad guy, or bad girl, whatever. And they take the blame, and then they get reelected later, So, yeah, man. Yeah, they're reaping what they sow, but they don't even get it. They know that people are still upset. They can sense and feel and see that, like, it hasn't gone away. Like the sentiment and the feeling and the attitude and everything that from what culminated on January 6th, 2021 hasn't gone away. But they don't understand why. Like they think it all goes back to Trump and whatever. And I mean, in my opinion, Trump is the same as Hillary Clinton. It's just that Hillary Clinton is like a polished politician. She wears a mask and she's very good at like saying the right things and being a goofy, dumb politician. What should I say to the Hispanics? And what should I say to the Latino women segment? And Trump is just like, whatever, blah, blah, blah. He shoots from the hip, and like, they don't like that, and but they're the same. They're both after power and money, So, and until the United States fixes our election financing, I really don't see how this problem gets solved. But and I mean, like the elites, if that's what you want to call them, the politicians and stuff like that, uh, they're not gonna get it because it like if January 6th didn't teach them that like people are just done, like people are at that point, at the limit, you know, then the only thing that will is to completely destroy our whole entire system of government, and that could happen from the bottom up, or it could come from them. It could come from the top down. I mean, one thing about 9/11 was they used that as an excuse to do the Patriot Act, to basically destroy the Fourth Amendment, your right to reasonable search and seizure. I mean, they spy on us, warrantless wiretapping, you know, holding people indefinitely without trial, without even charging them formally. Didn't Rome fall like this? Yeah, that's right. But who are they, names wise? Um, are you asking for individual politicians' names, or what do you mean? Because there's individual politicians, and then there are companies, and there's individual business people as well. Um, and I would say even the people who control the media, um, and like the Murdoch family, for example, they have a media empire throughout the Western world, and by that I'm not just saying like Europe and America. Like the Murdochs come from Australia, So, 1/6 protesters never been set a court date, violating their constitutional rights. Yeah, and not only that, but there were Americans who, by Obama and by Trump, who were just drone strike. They were outside the country, and they weren't like, European American. You know what I mean? They were Muslims, and they were in like that region of the world. But and like, did they deserve to? Were they bad people? Maybe, but like also I know that like some of their kids got killed. Uh, if they're American, we need to go arrest them, and charge them. I hear they a lot, but what persons call these shots? Who controls the media? Well, look, I mean, I don't think there's like one person or one group of people who like control everything. It's it's a money game. It's all about money. So when I say they, I'm generally referring to just the what some people call the deep state, but just the established power, the power establishment. So I'm talking about individual politicians who get in bed with corporate interests and represent them instead of the will of their constituents. And so, like Joe Manchin, who I've been talking about a lot recently, he claims that he's representing coal miners and blah, 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 blah. But the coal miners asked him to reconsider his position on Build Back Better, because Build Back Better would have helped people who are suffering from inflation. Like I said, child tax credits and lowering prescription drug prices do not add to inflation. And Joe Manchin does not care about inflation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have voted for the defense budget, which gave like hundreds of millions of dollars more than the Pentagon even asked for, you know? Um, so who are they? I'll tell you what, I'll give you a couple of resources right now so you can check out. One of them is called GovTrack, And you can go on there and find out who's bankrolling politicians. You can also see how they vote on everything, like their voting record and everything like that. Another one is called OpenSecrets.org, and you can go on there and you can see exactly which industries donate the most to individual politicians, and even what like companies give them, because that information has to be disclosed if it's if it's directly contributed. That's why PACs, political action committees, and super political action committees are so bad, because they just put all this money into a slush fund and then it's very difficult to track. They call it dark money. But I'll give you an example of who they are. Okay, you probably heard a lot about yeah, and dude, GovTrack and Open Secrets are really great. And on those websites, I found that Mitt Romney, right? You probably heard a lot about Keystone XL pipeline. They try to make it sound like there's no pipeline and we have to build it. There's already a pipeline. This is just like an addition to the pipeline. And it's a pork barrel project, guys. You look, there's already a pipeline that goes from the tar sands all the way down to Texas. This is like an addition to it. It's just a pork barrel project for a bunch of rich people to get richer. Mitt Romney, he was one of the board members and I think founders of Bain Capital. Bain Capital was one of the main investors into Keystone XL pipeline. And the law firm, the company that want to build the Keystone XL pipeline is a Canadian company called, I think it's called TransCanada, if my memory serves me correct. And the law firm that's representing them and TransCanada both donated to Mitt Romney's Senate race when he was when he ran in Utah. All right. Now, there's also a senator from Colorado. God, what's his name? He's a Democrat. His name, oh man, I can't remember his name. If you guys can like Google the senators from Colorado, that would be great. I think it's Mike something. Anyway, he's a Democrat, and he gave this fiery speech on the Senate floor about my state was underwater, and Republicans don't care about climate change. Ah! He was about to run for president, so he wanted to make a splash. Dude, he received campaign donations from the same people who donated to Mitt Romney. You know why? Because yes, Mike Bennett. That's right. And by the way, Mike Bennett was born with a silver spoon up his ass because his father was also a prominent politician from Colorado. But my point is, Mike Bennett received campaign contributions from the same law firm that was representing TransCanada and I believe TransCanada as well, and other interests that were wanted Keystone XL pipeline to happen. Now, I'm not saying like Keystone XL pipeline is good or bad. I'm saying it was a pork barrel project to begin with, and Democrats who are like on the floor of the Senate doing this performative act about how they care about climate change wanted this to go down, wanted it to happen, and they were taking money from the same people who were bankrolling Mitt Romney's Senate race. And Mitt Romney's a Republican. So that's what I mean when I say they, right? It's these companies who are in bed with these politicians, and they're all doing these legal scams and projects, basically, who screw us. It doesn't do anything for us. In a lot of cases, it hurts us, right? And makes them rich, because it's all about the money. And if you get the money, right, you can make the laws and you make the laws, you can keep ensuring that you get money and power and hang on to that and keep that system going. It's a racket, you know? Uh, but it's a zero sum game. It doesn't matter how much money they print, right? If they keep taking more of the pie, there's less for us. It's as simple as that. And that's what Joe Biden doesn't get, right? So that's my problem with Joe Biden's response or his speech or whatever about January 6th. I'm sorry. I know that this um, wasn't very coordinated, but I just wanted to share my thoughts. It's like past midnight now, so and I Thursday. It's now Friday morning, but Thursday is my busiest day. But anyways, guys, I've been doing more like political videos recently, and this is a big day, obviously, and I think people will be thinking about it and talking about it, so I just wanted to get my 2 cents out there. I don't know if anybody's gonna watch this whole thing, but I appreciate you guys who have been sitting here and talking with me about it. I lost my pipeline job. They wasted so much money and buy political favors. It's true, man. It's true, And by the way, even when they seem like they're for something, like this Keystone XL pipeline thing, it gets caught up in court. And guess what? Lawyers get paid by the hour. And the lawyers are, like I said, the law firms are the ones who are contributing to the politicians' campaigns. So they got to get paid first. Then these people get paid, then you get paid, then we get paid. That's how it is. It's a racket. They're all in cahoots. You're exactly right, LJ. So, yeah, man. People talk a lot about like socialism and stuff like that. I don't think people really know that much about what socialism is. We already have socialism in the United States. It's socialism for the rich, right? We have to bail them out when they crash the economy, and we all get shafted, right? We pay 30-40% of our income in taxes. They pay nothing, So, yeah, man. Those are my thoughts, Basically, January 6th was a crappy day, and but they're making it all dramatic, and they don't even understand what happened. Because they're not representing us. That's why. They're representing their corporate interests. So keep up the good digs, expat. You see it with your heart. Yeah, man. I see with my heart, and also I follow the money, because that's really all you got to do. Like I said, man, it's always about the money. It's always about the money. That's what it's always about. And since we talk about stacking and silver and gold and real money on our channels, that's all tied into politics, I mean, like I said, I think that's why Trump won last time, because he was talking about bringing jobs back to the United States. And, he was also talking about how immigrants are taking people's jobs and stuff like that. And, I mean, there's some truth to that. I don't agree with everything he said on that, but like business owners pay illegal migrant workers or undocumented migrant workers instead of paying us more and giving us health insurance and stuff like that, So definitely, but that's not on. I mean, I think everybody's looking for their little piece of the pie, and if anyone's really to blame for that, I don't blame the migrant worker. I blame the business owner who's screwing us over. Because the migrant workers wouldn't keep coming here if they weren't getting hired like that, So, it is what it is, man. But anyways, I don't know if I mentioned this, but my new job that I started like at the end of the summer really wasn't working out, so I resigned. My last day is on Monday. I don't know what's going on with my job. I'm looking for a new job, but if not, I will probably be supporting myself with freelance work or starting my own business. We'll have to see about that. I'll keep you guys updated. But I say that to let you know that I should be having more time to do regular content like unboxings and stuff like that. And finally, mail out the GAW winners. Man, I said I was gonna have it by Christmas, but Santa failed to come through. I'm sorry about that, man. But guys, I promise I'll get it to you next week. Um, I have some things I got to take care of. I got to get my kid's passport and stuff like that taken care of. I got some job interviews, but hopefully I'll be able to get some new other videos out. For everybody who stayed in here, and especially you, LJ, really appreciate it. I like having these conversations. I think these are the types of conversations we gotta have. It cannot be um, blaming these people and just criticizing and all this stuff. We gotta like just chill, pump the brakes and look at what's going on. Cause yeah, dude, it's a competition in the world, and we do have adversaries out there. But the way things are going in the United States right now, it's really not good, and we're gonna get lapped up and surpassed. So, anyways, hey, thank you, Carl. Quick question: what do you think about Silver's performance last year? Lackluster. But we know it's very heavily manipulated. So here's what I think. Okay, this goes for gold as well. Um, I think that there was a lot of extra money. By the way, thank you, Carl. Best wishes on new career. Maybe be able to hook up when I get back in March. Yeah, man. I'm sorry when we're not able to meet up when you're here, but we should be able to next time. And I'm glad you're back. Neophyte, let me answer that question about Silver's performance. Here's what I think. Uh, Actually, I think that a lot of this inflation and everything else is very related to cryptocurrency. People had extra money. Some people had extra money. Um, that could have been because other financial assets bubbled, or they were involved with a industry, or they were a business owner that benefited from the pandemic, or they could have received stimulus money that they really didn't need, so they just invested it. And when I say need, I mean like they were going to starve without it. So it was like extra money. And a huge crypto bubble formed. And I think that like cryptocurrencies are still not 100% fully understood. It's uncharted territory. So a lot of money that would have maybe gone into gold and silver went into cryptocurrencies, and other assets were just on fire. So a lot of that money went into other assets. So that's why I think gold and silver were underperforming. But all conversations about current events is important, even good and bad conversation. 100% agree with you, LJ. Because there's always a learning opportunity in it. Even if it's like, okay, well, I don't want to talk, like, have that conversation, Um, so yeah, 100% agree. But yeah, I think that gold and silver were underperforming because there was a lot of liquid, liquidity, and a lot of other assets were really on fire. I mean, just look at the performance of the stock market and cryptocurrencies, and people are when things are going up like that, uh, people are not looking at like safe assets like gold and silver. So, um, and on top of that, you add the manipulation. It's just. But hey, if you're like me, that's a good thing. Because I invested in other stuff too, but I was stacking heavy last year, so for me it was a buying opportunity. But in terms of like how it actually moved, that's what I was commenting on. I think that's why the other assets were just bubbling too much, but it's starting to go down now, so we might see some moves coming up here soon. We'll see. But yeah, that's my thoughts on gold and silver. Good question, Neophyte. So yeah, man. Any other questions or comments you guys want to drop before I sign off? I really only planned to come on here for like 20 minutes or so, but it's already been an hour. That's awesome. I love hanging out with you guys, man. And this time I'm not driving, so I could like interact a little bit more. So, lots of manipulation. Silver, gold. It'll go up one day. Keep buying while it's on sale. Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying. I agree with you there, man. I was stacking hard. Do you think Biden is the quote unquote real president? Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless, man. Stay safe. Hey, I really appreciate that neophyte stacker. Thank you too. God bless you, man. And hope you stay safe too. And much love to you, man. Do you think Biden is the real president? What do you mean by that, Marcelo? While I'm waiting for your answer there, I will say this too about in terms of like how people think and act um, on the political front. Uh, I heard a good point the other day, which was people talking about vaccine hesitancy and skepticism, and they're like, yeah, we had this opioid crisis, and then you had all the horrible, you know, like the Tuskegee experiments and all this kind of stuff. And then you wonder why people don't trust the big pharma companies, and they jack up the prices of all the drugs that we need and stuff like that. Like, it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Have you found a rabbit to complete your series 2 set yet? Nah. Actually, as of very recently, by the way, my phone might die. But as of very recently, because of my job situation, I have not been actually picking up that much. Gotta go to work now. Have a great day, everyone. Stay positive. God bless. Hey, man, God bless you too, LJ. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Your contribution to the conversation, man. Have a great day at work, and we'll talk again soon, brother. Um, no, I haven't really been doing too many pickups recently, because of the job situation, you know. Because I have some savings and I have some other assets and I have credit, but um, I just don't want to make those moves right now when the job front is not secure or stable. So, but yeah, man, I'm gonna have to sign off now because I gotta get to bed, and also my phone is about to die in a minute. So, but really enjoyed talking with you guys. God bless you guys. Um, let's keep the political economic discussions um, constructive. Doesn't always have to be positive, but constructive, because we are the society. Even though we feel helpless sometimes,